Welcome back, everyone, to another season of the Bad Quarterback League 2018 edition. Even though it's week 1, we still have a lot to talk about, so let's open it up with
He's made a mess of it.
I absolutely have to nominate myself as the recipient of week 1's H. Mamoy Award of Degeneracy. Picking both of your worst teams, one being possibly the worst negative week a team has ever had in the BQBL, is a fine recipe for making a mess. I wasn't alone though. Colt Quinn Whedon had the same idea with starting off the year with Tampa Bay, but Ryan Fitzpatrick had different ideas as he amassed 5 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, and 400 plus yards. Perhaps the New Orleans defense is as bad as we thought they were. We're both hoping this doesn't happen again, or it's going to be a long season. Now on to this week's best and worst teams. A new segment where I'll see who the top teams were for the week, which of us in each league were smart enough to start them, and I'll do the same for the worst teams. The top 2 teams stuck out big time, as Buffalo, oh my god, had a benching, under 100 yards passing, 33% completion rate, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a benching. Not far behind was Detroit, who had decent passing yards, but 4 picks, including a tank, and a benching against the Jets of all teams. As we can see here from these fancy checkmark boxes, the Turbush League actually fared a bit better this week, as they started all 3 top teams and tied starting the worst teams.
Special thanks to Tyler Palco for benching Detroit, ass.
In this week's Moneyball in it, even though he's only 4th place in his league after week 1, I'm going to highlight Steve Grogan, as for week 1 he started his 3rd and 4th round draft picks, and both of them were the right choice, as they were his 2 highest scoring teams. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Effing Moxon will probably tell you differently, but in my opinion, that's what Moneyball in it is all about. Honorable mentions to Jay Cutler Cavallari, who also picked both his bests, plus avoided a negative week by Indy, and TS8 Win, who did the same while avoiding Kansas City's negative week. Finally, on to the Kirsch 1-week standings, where both newcomers from the Turbush League are making an early statement. Jay Cutler Cavallari is on top after his genius Buffalo start, although some will question how genius starting a team that should probably never be on the bench actually is. Ryan Leaf chose his 2 best teams and found himself in 2nd. Wade Wilson started trusty Cleveland and took a chance with formerly 5-0 Garoppolo as a starter week 1, and it paid off. Fading back a bit, but a solid week nonetheless, is Chad Hutchinson, who navigated around 2 negative teams. Cade McNown is close behind after getting a New England start out of the way. Defending champ Tyler Palco found his usual finishing spot early after benching and missing out on the 98-point Detroit start that we might be talking about 16 weeks from now. And finally, what a difference 2 years makes, as former number 1 and number 2 find themselves under the waterline, both picking their 2 worst teams to start the year. If it's any consolation to Tony Banks, he did start his 2016 campaign in the negatives after week 2 and ended the season in 2nd place, but right now he's looking at 160 points behind first. Now on to some real BQBL discussion. Who is going to be my pick for Relegation Watch 2018? I got very lucky with being correct in 2016 when TS8 Win was relegated on the final week of the season, yet I believe my choice of Cleo Lemon last year was a little too easy. To make this a real challenge, I'm setting the following rules for myself. I must nominate 3 players this week and choose one of them next week to be the official person on Relegation Watch all season. We have the draft and week 1 results to factor in. I'm basically eliminating 5 of you from being ridiculed all year right now. These are in no order. I'm eliminating Jay Cutler Cavallari basically on the Buffalo effect alone. I didn't think the number 1 overall pick was a good idea for the draft, but this year is Jay Cutler's opportunity to make me look like an idiot for passing it up. My second elimination will be Wade Wilson based on Cleveland and possibly now the not so highly touted Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm concerned about his point totals coming from Washington and New Orleans, but I think he'll keep his head above water. Ryan Leaf will probably stay out of relegation if the Giants keep this up and Dallas continues to get worse, plus his 1st round pick of Denver should give him plenty of BQBL fuel. Cade McNown smartly got a New England pick out of the way, and it didn't really hurt his BQBL score much. Carolina should give him good weeks if he knows when to pick them, and the Jets in Tennessee should be enough to keep him out of the red. So with that, we have 4 teams left. Who will be the last one saved from Relegation Watch 2018? Yes, you heard it right, folks. I'm eliminating myself from Relegation Watch because even with a negative 16-point start, I'm that confident I'm going to finish 6th or better this year. Therefore, one of these 3 teams will be the official hot seats of the Bad Quarterback League after next week's video. Good luck!
Finally, yeah, I know we still have a Turbush League standings to do. Here they are. Wanky wins in 3rd, Whedon's wailing in last. Why do 3 of you have names that start with a W? Now I hope Wade Wilson gets relegated so we can join monkeys flinging turds at each other. Jeff George even tried to start a team he didn't even draft, for crying out loud. Also, who tipped off Johnny Football to start Pittsburgh at Cleveland over a traditionally bad Baltimore? I think he's cheating. He already almost owns the entire AFC North. What does he think this is, Monopoly? Owning all the teams in a division doesn't mean you can build hotels, Johnny.